Hello, thank you so much for joining in tonight. I am so pleased to have Vinnie Tortorich on with me. And Vinnie, I so respect your work. And here I'm going to put up just to show a lot of the highlights of your career. I'm sure there's so much work that went into your documentaries, Fat 2, Beyond Impossible, and your awesome Fitness Confidential book and podcast. So maybe if you could just give a little background before we chime in here.
Yeah, you pretty much hit it. There is a fourth documentary called Dirty Keto that's out there, but it wouldn't have fit into your graph, so it's probably
It had a brownie on the cover.
yeah. It was like, wait a minute, but we're talking about not eating that brownie. That was the whole idea. But yeah, started with a degree in exercise physiology from Tulane and nutrition, and so in other words, I was a glorified PE teacher, and was one of the early in-home trainers in this country in the early 1980s, and somehow meandered out to Hollywood. And next thing you know, I'm working with celebrities, and that was before everyone was calling themselves a celebrity fitness trainer. We didn't even have a term for it. I was just a trainer, but my clientele dealt with Hollywood. And then did that from 1990 through 2011 or 12, and actually kept clients all the way through 2015. That's about the time when I stopped doing that. But around 2011, I wrote a book, the book you just showed, Fitness Confidential, and it became this kind of juggernaut of a book. Gary Taubes already had 2 books out there on the subject, so it wasn't like I came up with anything. And of course, if you go back to the letter on corpulence from 120 years earlier, I truly didn't come up with anything. It was me just going, this is how I kept Hollywood thin. I wasn't claiming that I created anything, nor do I today.
But you have to say you really are one of the original OG keto guys, right?
Yeah, well, on the internet, like I said, Gary was talking about it. My good friend Nina Teicholz, her book wasn't even out yet, and that was just a few short years ago. That book came out after mine. The book I'm talking about is what did she call it? What is this book called? You must read this book, folks. The book with no name. It's called Big Fat Surprise.
Big Fat, yeah.
And, we all kind of hit around the same time. We were all called charlatans and kooks and said that we were going to kill people. And I was sitting around going, wait a minute, Hollywood didn't think I was killing them. I've been doing that with them since 1990. No one died. As a matter of fact, people thanked me for, showing them a different way, showing them that Atkins wasn't a crazy diet. And by the way, when we say Atkins, we're not talking about what Atkins became after he died, after the family sold it to a big company and they started making candy bars. I'm talking about what Dr. Atkins was talking about when he was alive. So yeah, it was just, I guess I'm all over the place right now, but that's how the whole thing started.
Yeah. And so, you're so well versed in also the whole exercise physiology. And we're going to put up where I'd love to get some tips and tricks on your thoughts on the zone 2 cardio and also the slow burn weight training, which I myself do. And I know Fred Hahn also, and your thoughts on really both of those aspects of health and training.
Yeah, if you're trying to build a base, a big giant cardio base, I've seen nothing to work better than zone 2 cardio. Now, the volume comes in the amount of time you spend doing it. If you think you're going to do zone 2 twice a week for 30 minutes, you won't be any more fit than before you started, to be honest.
Can you explain a bit about, I was always thinking zone 2 is 180 minus your age. Do you have a different kind of criteria for that?
No, that's a good benchmark, but you're using some empirical data when you say 180 minus your age. So that's a thereabout amount. So basically you have to know what your heart rate goes to. So if it's, let's say your heart rate goes to 190, let's say 190 or 200, right? So zone 2 is between 70 and 79% of your
Max.
max, right? So if you take the number 180, it's a thereabout good number for most people. So let's assume, Lisa, that you were 50, okay? And we wanted to figure out your zone 2. We would take 180 minus your age, that's 130. But you're not out of shape. You're not a couch potato. I've seen you. You do cartwheels, for God's sake. People that do cartwheels are generally not couch potatoes. So we're going to add 5 beats per minute just for that. So that puts you at about 135, right? Now, the question becomes, is 135 70% or 80% of your zone 2, right? Because remember I said between 70 and 80% of your aerobic capacity. Let's call that 75% just for shits and giggles. So now you're at 135, you're right around the middle. You're around 75% of your aerobic capacity, which means you could go a few points higher than that. You could be a few points below that and still be within that range. Now, is that perfect? Absolutely not. I've been proven wrong more times than not. When someone goes and gets a VO2 max test or goes to a doctor and gets, they put them on a treadmill to get to figure out their heart, the heart scan. I can't remember what they call that test, but they'll go, hey, my heart rate went to 193. Oh, great. Now you have better data. So you take that number and do 70 to 79% of that number.
And not even subtracting the age at that point.
No, because you actually know what the number is.
Right. Okay.
Right. And look, for guys like me, I was an ultra athlete for a lot of years. I'm 62 years old. I can tell you mine is still way up in the high, 130s. Right. So mine does not figure on that chart, but I have my VO2 max is very high for my age. And like I said, I did ultra cycling for the better part of 25 years. So I'm still operating at a very high level. So there is that thing where if you exercise like a crazy man your entire life, it falls at a slower rate. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then also, what about that zone 2 is considered the fat burning zone? Is that really a thing?
Well, that's kind of a thing. Okay, so again, I'm going to try to put this in cartoon version because that's all right. So when we're operating from just your basic basal metabolic rate, right? Your body is just using, butyrates for energy because there's no reason to tap into any sugar, right? So if you go right off of your basal metabolic rate and you're walking or you're doing housework or you're mowing the lawn, provided you have a flat lawn, right? You're below 70% of your aerobic capacity. You're burning nothing but fat, right? Your body is just going to, convert fat because you're moving slow enough that your body's going to do that. Now, when you get to zone 2, which is right above 70%, your body will still burn nothing but fat, right?
And you're still at the point as you're exercising, you're able to carry a conversation. You're not out of breath in zone 2, right?
Right. You can carry a normal conversation in zone 2. Sometimes when I'm doing consults, I'm on my spinner and I'm at 130 beats, 132 beats a minute. And the person I'm talking to, I have business meetings all the time on my spinner. Now, if I'm running, you sound a little jolting. You know, if you're jumping rope, but if you're just on a spinner, no one can hear it. No one is any the wiser when I'm doing that. You just have to put your phone in isolation, and they can't hear the bike whizzing. You know, if you can't have a normal conversation, you're pulling out of zone 2. Now, if I let my heart rate go to 140, now I can get a sentence out, but then I have to catch my breath to get another sentence out, right? If you're in zone 4, you're not talking. You're getting one word out at a time or nothing.
Yeah. And so as far as your, I guess, personal philosophy on the slow burn weight training and the effectiveness of that?
Are we talking like, you know, Fred Hahn and Ben Bokikio and those guys that one set to failure?
Because that's what I do. So
it works like a charm. As a matter of fact, I recommend it to very busy people. It doesn't mean that you have to be very busy to do it. If you just want to work out twice a week and get everything done, it works. I'm here to tell you, you know, everybody on the internet wants to sell you on an idea. You know, slow burn works. One set to failure works. Arthur Jones figured that out. The original guy that did Nautilus figured it out back in the early 1970s. I think people actually figured it out before then. Is there any downside to it? The only downside is every time you go in to train, you have to be on it, right? You have to do it. You have to go spot on.
It's intense getting to that point of failure.
Yeah. And it helps if you have a partner, a buddy to train with, or you have the means to hire someone like a Fred Hahn or a Ben Bokikio.
For the purpose of pushing you to that point of, you're not done yet, keep going, when your brain says, this doesn't feel wonderful, I think it's time to stop.
Yeah. I personally don't do it. Have I done it in the past? Sure. You know, and that's, you know, I've never trained anyone on anything that I haven't done myself. So way back when they were calling it super slow out in California, I got into it for a bit and got with some other people that were doing it just to see what it was all about. And I'm telling you, 30 minutes. How long does it take you, Lisa? They're about 30 minutes?
About 30 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. You can walk out of that gym feeling like you need to take a nap in 30 minutes if you do it right. Otherwise, you're just, as they say, pissing in the wind. Now, I personally, I'm old school. I'm Frank Zane, Arnold Schwarzenegger, those guys.
So is that multiple sets?
Yeah, but you're basically doing the same thing. So let me explain. I believe in warming up, and so get a little synovial fluid. I'm older now. I'm 62. I still like to get that warm up set in. The warm up set is doing nothing but waking those muscles up, getting the joints, getting a little synovial fluid in the joints, waking them up. And then I do a medium set, meaning the medium set, I might do 8 to 10 reps. And when I get to the 10th rep, I can usually do another 1, maybe 2 reps. That would be that failure rep. But I'll leave it on the table. And then I'll take another, it's just 1 minute break in between this. And I'll do the 3rd set. And on the 3rd set, I will go to failure. Now, if it's bench press, I'll get some guy in the gym. I'll just grab a guy and say, hey, when it ends up on my chest, help me off with it. And on that last rep, I will do that, hold it back as much as I can until, it's on my chest. And then they take it off and you're spent. And I'll do that. And the key behind that, like today I did push, right? All I did was bench, incline bench, shoulder press, dips. And when I was done with those 4 exercises, is that 3 or 4? It's 4. I did 1 or 2 sets of chest fly. I did 1 set to failure. And I went over and did 2 sets of tricep extensions to failure. I was out of the gym in about 35 minutes, right? I'm going to go in tomorrow. I'm going to do back. I can tell you what the back routine is going to be. If it's pull-ups, I'm going to do 3 sets, the 3rd set to failure, right? I'm going to do close grip pull-ups or lat pull machine, maybe 2 sets, 2nd set to failure, because I've already done this as much as you can. There's a limit where, well, if 3 sets is good, is 10 sets better? No, you get to failure, your brain gets the message, your body gets the message, you're done. It's the same as 1 set to failure or slow burn. I just like to split it up over 3 days because I like going to the gym every day. Maybe I'm bored with life. But again, it's a 25 or 30-minute workout. The only one that takes longer is leg day because I take a little longer breaks in between. But I will pick 3 exercises. It might be squats, deadlifts, and leg press machine. The next time I go in, it might be, belted squats, lunges or Bulgarian split squats, and then maybe the hip thrust machine. I'll switch it up every time. Now, even with that, since I'm doing everything twice a week, just like you are, the second time I don't go to failure. I'll go to 85%, and my reps will go up. That 3rd set, instead of being 3 or 4 reps, might be 6 or 8 reps. And I'll just stop at around 85, 90% failure. And that makes me fresh for the next time I go in to go hard. Right. And that's more of an advanced thing that only if you have a good trainer that knows what the F they're doing can figure that out for you. Not to have you killing it twice a week. And by the way, I just watched a guy who I respect dearly, Louis Simmons, the guy behind West Side Barbells. I don't know, folks, if anyone listening, if you want to go watch West Side versus the World, you could probably find it for free on YouTube. These are not people that are trying to look like bodybuilders. They're some of the strongest human beings in the world. These guys they look like sumo wrestlers, and they're doing crazy stuff. And even Louis figured out at some point, if you're going balls deep every single workout, you're going to get hurt, right? And then he figured out from studying the Russians and some of the Eastern Bloc countries, something that I did in the early 80s whenever, we tore down that wall, right? We started learning about things like plyometrics, right? We started learning about some of these techniques. We didn't know what a kettlebell was before the wall came down, right? We learned all of this from the Eastern Europeans. It's just what we got. And what Louis figured out was, wait, these guys, they go all in, and then the next workout, they adjust it to around 80, 85%, and then they go all in again. You're giving yourself a fresh start by doing that. Does that did I get too nerdy here? I'm sorry, Lisa.
No.
You asked me a question that I is close, near and dear to my heart. I'm sorry.
I'm very into making sure everybody understands how important it is for the rest of our lives to weight train. And, sarcopenia is very real. And after the age of about 35 to 37, that's what I say, our muscles go into deterioration mode. And people say, well, do I have to weight train? I say, well, do you want to keep your muscles or not?
It's just like, you remember your dentist used to make this joke, only floss the teeth you want to keep.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You only work the muscles you plan on keeping. I thought I was doing a pretty good job of keeping some muscle on, and I do, but I wasn't working that hard. I was still doing well over 400 hours of, because I mark everything down. I was, up until last year, I was still doing over 400 hours of aerobics per year. And this past year, I went through chemo again because I have chronic cancer at this point. And it came back, and I had to go on chemo. And then I found myself hiking in Mammoth while I had just gotten off of chemo, and I just wanted to go to altitude and just get some fresh air. So I was up there with my buddy Dan, and Dan is my age, lifelong athlete, and the guy's a stud athlete. Dan has rowing records, indoor rowing records, not on the water. And he's done some streaks of like 1,200, 1,300 days in a row before he missed, I think due to his own cancer or something. Anyway, Dan and I are up in Mammoth kind of staring at each other. And I'm looking at Dan going, he's looking kind of scrawny, right? So I'm judging another guy who's in tip-top shape. And this guy can run up a mountain like nobody's business. I'm going, Dan ain't looking so good, right? And by the way, folks, if anybody saw Dan, you would go, oh my God, that guy's in incredible shape. And he is. But I'm looking at it going, this guy's doing a lot of aerobics. And I went, wait a minute, Vinnie, you also do a shit ton of aerobics. So that night when I got back to my room, I took my shirt off and I looked at my body in the mirror, and I did not like what I saw. It's like, yeah, okay, my stomach is ripped. BFD, right? Mm-hmm. My shoulders are slumping. I'm no better than Dan. As a matter of fact, I just gone through chemo. I was worse than Dan. And I was looking at him going, and I'm going, I'm worse than him. Dan must be looking at me going, Vinnie looks like shit, right? So I came up with a New Year's resolution right there. As a matter of fact, before I left Mammoth, I went to the gym. Like I found a guy that had a box, right? A CrossFit gym. And the owner looked me up online. He goes, yeah, you come in. Here's the key. So Dan left to go climb Mount Whitney. And I just started going to the gym every day in Mammoth. I couldn't wait to get back home. And right then I came back and started developing my New Year's resolution. Instead of doing at least an hour of aerobics every day, I'm cutting back on aerobics until I have an event that requires aerobics, like climbing Whitney or Mont Blanc or whatever I decide to go do. In the meantime, I'm hitting the gym. And I'm not just hitting the gym, I'm hitting it as if I'm going to play college ball again, right? Now, we can't do some of the things. I'm not going to do clean and jerks. I'm not going to do, deadlift with 400 or 500 pounds and all the crap we used to do. But I'm going to do what I can as a 62-year-old man to get some of that muscle back. I want to be a version of you, Lisa, that can do cartwheels. I'm not looking to do cartwheels, but I want my own cartwheel, right? Whatever that may be.
Yeah, we have to set goals, that's for sure. The next topic, Vinnie, I was so intrigued by your interview that you did, and I'm going to bring it up here, with Dr. Mary Newport, and this whole thing with the ketosis and the ketones. And I think a lot of it gets lost in a bit of the carnivore world, the carnivore conversation. It's eat meat, drink water, get healthy kind of thing. But I think there's something critically important to understanding ketosis and ketones and keeping a high fat amount in your diet. And this whole thing with the coconut oil just blew my mind when you hear her story with her husband who was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. So, and I actually, my own mom, she's 84, and she has tremor, which they're basically waiting to diagnose Parkinson's. My dad had multiple different things going on, but one of them was also Parkinson's. And I wish I had at least known about the coconut oil then. But can you give both, the commentary on this whole story that it was incredible when you had her on your channel. So I'll link it below for others to watch. But yeah, on ketones and ketosis, because you've been in this world for quite a while, and I just would love to hear your sort of top tips and tricks on this whole topic.
Yeah, before I was in this internet world, just eating high fat and high protein was my way of keeping me lean and keeping Hollywood lean. It was my trick, right? I didn't want anyone to really know it, right? All trainers keep their little bag of tricks. And I remember I would have to tell them, listen, your husband or wife or girlfriend, boyfriend, they're going to smell a smell coming off of you at first. When you first go into dietary ketosis, your breath is going to be horrible. All these good things. Your skin might smell weird, but it all goes away and it all normalizes. And so I would always tell people that, right? I would explain to them that they're not going to be hungry anymore. You won't have gas, right? all the things, right? And I knew just, in passing that this was some kind of ancient way to get kids to stop having seizures. I knew people that talked about dietary ketosis for longevity. Of course, I knew about the letter on corpulence and all that stuff. But that was about all I knew. I didn't really, it's like brain health. I'm not going to go tell that to someone. I'm going to sound like a hammer looking for a nail, because I didn't really know what it meant. And it wasn't until Dominic D'Agostino started coming on the show, in the early days. And he started talking about all of these superhuman things that, vision clearing up, things like tremors, people who had autoimmune diseases like, Parkinson's, finding where it's healing up. Right. As a matter of fact, there's a woman named Mimi that you should have on your podcast, who I've had on the show a few times, who the doctors just said, you're going to be on medication and you're going to die soon. And she was like maybe 60 at the time. And the woman is maybe 70 now, 68, and she looks healthier than she ever has. But I started hearing about all this stuff but never really paid attention to it until people like D'Agostino came on and a few other doctors. And I was like, really? Should I be talking about this? And I became friends with Jim Abrams, right, from the Charlie Foundation. He was in my first documentary, Fatted documentary. As a matter of fact, I opened the thing with Jim Abrams crying on camera, which is, this is a big Hollywood producer, right? And here he is talking about his kid who they wanted to fricking do a lobotomy on, and so you start talking to these people and then they introduce you to all the people in their group and they're showing you all these results. And now you start becoming a believer, right? None of these people have a horse in the race. They just know that this works, right? They're not selling anything. You can't sell dietary ketosis, right? All you have to do is eat low carb, eat a lot of fat and coconut oil. And D'Agostino was talking to me about taking exogenous ketones, to get people into ketosis faster and the whole thing. But even he admitted that you can do it just by just eating coconut oil, medium chain triglyceride will get you there really fast. And that's what, that was the beginning of it. Mary Newport came on my show for the first time in maybe 2015 or 16. I was still living in LA and telling the story about her husband. And the truth is stranger than fiction, and she shows what, how bad he was. They asked him to draw a clock and he couldn't draw a clock. Like he drew lines and like a bunch of circles all around the line. He couldn't draw a clock. And then she put him into dietary ketosis, gave him nothing but coconut oil for like 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
And just a couple tablespoons. Well, built it up to, I guess, about some more but
yeah,
it wasn't ridiculous.
Well, it doesn't take much. And I can tell you that you can build up a tolerance to it, because I tell people at first, you got to go light because it can screw up your stomach. I can eat a metric ton of it. I mean, I have a company called UltraFat, which is coconut oil mixed with, almond butter. So I can eat that stuff all day long. I'm always tasting new formulas, so I'm eating tons of it. So you get used to it after a while.
There it is.
Oh yeah, there it is. So UltraFat, and by the way, this is not an ad for UltraFat. You could just go buy coconut oil in the store You go to Trader, people go, who's got the best coconut oil? I said, everybody. Go get the one at Trader Joe's. Like they give you a whole bottle of it for like $6, you know, and it's as good as anything you'll pay a lot of money for. As a matter of fact, I tell people, I warn them against getting the, you know, the refined stuff, because that will run right through you like shit through a goose. And you better have a bathroom near, you know, if you take too much of that stuff. So
yeah, the unrefined extra virgin coconut oil is just a beautiful, delicious product.
Yeah. And I keep one sitting on the counter, and I'll scoop out of that, you know, all day long. You know, so I probably have no less than, I don't want to exaggerate, 2 of those a day. And I might have 2 or 3 of my ultra fats in the same day. And people are like, you're like an Energizer bunny. You're at the gym, you're running, you're doing those. Yeah. Yeah. And it works like a charm. And Mary Newport proved that. And she's written some great books on it. Do you have her books there, Lisa?
No, I don't yet. But actually, I've just been introduced to her through watching your video with her. And
oh, you got to get her on. If you want me to introduce you, if she's got time, she's helped more people with autoimmune disease, not just Alzheimer's, but, you know, Tremors and Parkinson's and a host of other ones of those. People with Crohn's disease, right? They tell you that's irreversible.
I know. And she has more books than the ones that I have just up here too, right?
Yeah, I think there's I think the Alzheimer's disease is the first one. She might have a 3rd book at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She, as a matter of fact, it's kind of upsetting. Her husband went on a trial drug, and that's what ended up he went downhill, and then he died.
I thought was, maybe I'm mistaken. I thought one of the experimental drugs they ended up being on the placebo.
I can't remember. I just know that she wishes they had never done that, because they were doing well on their own. And then they went through this trial, and they had to stop doing everything else, and he went downhill quickly, and that was it. She'll tell you the story. You know, I tear up when she tells the story, and I wish I could remember exactly which group she was in. But yeah, it's kind of upsetting.
And all the more reason to keep trying to get out the truth and the message that it's as simple as, you know, C15, C8, right? Yeah. And yeah, no magic pills. All right. So another topic that's of great interest to myself, and also I'm going to say my audience, is this one here, artificial sweeteners. I need to get the rundown from you, because I took a quote from you there. If you do anything, drop the sugar, grain, and artificial sweeteners. Those sweeteners will kill you faster than cigarettes. Yeah.
And now some of the doctors are coming on board. It's a new thing I've seen recently in the past 6 months, where they're saying allulose is actually good for you. And I think it's allulose. Have you seen that, Lisa?
Yeah, the allulose. They're saying it almost has like a GLP-1 mimicking effect. And I'm like, man, who's behind the marketing of that now?
Yeah.
Who cherry picked what study?
Yeah, that's not going to turn out the way they want it to. Folks, if it's too good to be true, the same with GLP-1s. And I know people hate when I say that. It's like, what, you hate people getting in shape and losing weight? It's like, talk to Ben Bigman and see what he thinks, right? A guy who's been studying this stuff longer than anyone else. But the bottom line is, it's as you just said, it's a cherry pick study, and you know, it's BS in my meager opinion. But any of the sweeteners, you know, that's like telling an alcoholic, have
a light beer.
Yeah, have a light beer. Don't have the hard liquor. You can, have all the light beers you want. It's kind of like that. That's like telling a smoker, like you were smoking Camels, no filter. Yeah, just start having the filter cigarettes. Have the Marlboro Lights with the filter.
Yeah, I like to liken it to changing seats on the Titanic.
Yeah, it's true. You know, it's you know, you're right. If a plane is going down, changing seats is not going to save you, right? It's yeah. I know this makes me sound like an asshole. People go, "Oh, well, I can't ever have anything sweet." Well, if you're 375 pounds and you have your A1Cs are 11, and you know you have sleep apnea and fatty liver disease, I'm sorry, but you've already punched your ticket, right? It's equivalent to the guy who has lung cancer and he keeps smoking, right? The first thing you need to do is stop what's causing the problem. Sorry, right? And they'll go, "Oh, you've never had a weight problem." Well, no, because I've watched it my entire life. Everyone else in my family is fat.
Mine too.
You know, and my brothers, you know, they wish, they go, "Man, I wish I could be as disciplined as you." It's like, well, it's easier for me to be disciplined because I've never been on your side. I've never gone overboard, right? And that doesn't make me a better person. I was just scared to go there, right? I started gaining a little weight right after college football. I got up to 270 pounds. And I took a long look in the mirror one night and pointed at myself in the mirror and said, "This stops right now." And that was in 1983, 84. And I figured out how to lose weight and figured out, you know, the carbs have to go. My great grandmother, who never went to college, never went to sixth grade, she was barely spoke English. She was Italian. She knew that too much pasta and bread will make you fat. How did she know that? Right? People just inherently knew eating pasta and bread will make you fat. Eating rice will make you fat. Ask any sumo wrestler. That's what they do to gain weight. Right? We want to fatten cattle. We give them grains. This is not brand new information, folks. I wish it was. I wish this was some kind of newfangled thing that people like Lisa and myself came up with. It's not. Right? It's very old. When Mama Virginia, my great-grandmother, knew this from the old country, and she was born in the 1800s. Woman died when she was 100. I knew her most of my childhood and into my teens. She knew that you get fat from eating grains. How's everyone else forgotten that?
Yeah, and how do you address the issue where there's people who understand the message, understand what they need to do, and I'll say the addiction of it is so strong, and they continually relapse into their DOC, their drug of choice, whether it's bread and pasta, chips, or cookies and ice cream. But I don't know, what is your take on thoughts about knowing what they should be doing and then just literally can't get out from under themselves?
It's difficult. You know, unlike drugs, you know, food as a dog we have to take for a walk a couple of times, 3 times a day, right? If you want to get off of drugs or alcohol, you just have to sustain, you know, just abstain from them. With food, you're now wrestling with the devil. And we live in a world where it's so easy to make mistakes. That's why they call people like you a kook. Oh, she just eats meat. Well, it works, right? Now, most people don't want to just eat meat, right? And they'll try my approach where I just say no sugars, no grains. And with that comes everything else, right? No starchy vegetables, no potatoes, leeks, and everything else. It opens up it opens up your world a little more than being a carnivore. But whether you're doing NSNG or keto or carnivore or lion diet, doesn't matter what you want to call it. It comes down to the same thing. If you want to get serious about it and not take GLP-1s or any other drug that's going to have massive side effects, is what you have to do. Lisa, how many times have you been at a party and someone has said to you, they know you from the internet or wherever, right? And they'll say, "Doctor, just tell me what to do. I will do anything. I will do anything. I can't go with the sleep apnea. I don't want to have the CPAP on anymore. Doctor tells me my A1Cs are 9, and they're talking about this and that and the whole thing. And you tell them, okay, all you have to do is cut out the carbs, and then they'll look at you and go, "What else you got?" Because I'm not going to do that.
Oh, no, doc, I can't do that. I'm Italian.
I was on stage one night, and I noticed that there was a guy in the front row. I used to go do these things in LA. There's a guy in the front row. He looked like he was from Central Casting. He was this Mexican guy, or Spanish, but I just assumed Mexican. We were in LA. He's tatted up. He's got muscles everywhere. He's got a ponytail. He looks like he came in on a Harley, that kind of thing. And he's sitting in the front row with me and just staring at me the entire time. It's like, I don't want to walk off of the stage because I think this guy's here to kick my ass, right? I didn't know why he was there. But at the end, when I took Q&A, he was the last one, and he raises his hand and he goes, "Hey, bro." I went, "Hey." He goes, "I came here tonight because I brought my friend." And he's got this overweight Mexican woman sitting next to him. He goes, "I brought my friend, bro, and she needs help. And, what can you tell her?" So we talked. I was up on stage and we're talking. The audience is listening. And I said, "You have to get off of corn, rice, beans." And she goes, "I can't." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I'm Mexican." And I said, "That's not an excuse. I'm Italian. No one says I have to eat pasta or bread, And I said, "I get it. Where you live, food is love. I get it. Your mom has given it to you. Your auntie has given it to you. You have a feast every Sunday and this and that. And it's all about love." And I said, "But if they truly loved you, you have to tell them, listen, I need to do this." Right. And, I hope she got better. Never heard from her again. Don't know. I'm going to guess she didn't, because when you're in the community, right? When you're Italian, but every group, I can't do it. I'm Jewish. I can't do it. I'm Irish. Everybody's something. And every nationality has a reason why they can't do it. Right. I'm Irish. We eat potatoes. Right.
A lot of beer.
We eat everything. Right. I don't know. You got to.
It's friends, family, coworkers. We're just surrounded with a whole. It's weird to think, but so much of our world revolves around food and socializing, eating. It's where are we going? What are we having? What are we eating? What are you bringing? It's such a difficult addiction to overcome. It really is. But I would say, you have to have your why, and you have to want it badly enough. And, change is difficult. It really is truly difficult. I mean, I've lived it. I've suffered most of my entire life, really, battling food addiction. So, but that's exactly what you're saying with we're from early childhood. It's the traditions, the family, the connections, the long, deep-seated comforting ourselves with food, numbing out or filling an emotional void. And it just is very difficult. So that's my passion to continue talking about it. And, I love getting into that whole keto aspect of it with you too, because I think having that better mental clarity that comes along with ketosis is so beneficial in helping on this journey. Somebody in the chat wrote, is it Dr. Newport's third book was Clearly Keto?
That could be it.
Yeah.
I know she might have done a second edition of the first book also. Folks, go look up everything she's doing, because she's doing a good job.
Yeah. Can you fill me in just my curiosity of, do you ever measure your ketones? Do you just assume you're always in ketosis because you're having your, coconut oil and higher fat diet each day?
I do check from time to time, but it's usually kind of after I've done something bad, like if I have a glass of wine, which I tend not to do very often. But if I have a glass of wine, I might go check like an hour after that. And
Just out of curiosity to see if it kicked you out of ketosis?
right. And usually a glass of wine with a meal will not do that. And that's when I would have a glass of wine. But it does drop it a fair amount. Like I'll go check and it's like I'm at 0.3 or 0.4. In the mornings, I don't have to check in the mornings. I know I'm going to be 0.6, 0.7 every morning. Sometimes I do party tricks, right? Where if I'm on my rowing machine for an hour or any piece of aerobic equipment for an hour, if I wait about 30 minutes after that, maybe 45 minutes and check, it goes way up, right? Like it'll go like 2.0. And, I guess it's because your body was making a lot of ketones at the time and then you stop doing it. So your blood might be, just trying to get rid of the extra ketone bodies, right? You're going to just breathe them out. Yeah. And that's another thing people don't know. They'll say to me, I've been asked, how do we lose weight? Where does it go? Where does the energy go? And it's like the same place it went in. It goes out of your mouth and out of your nose, right? We turn it into a butyrate, we liquefy it and we breathe it out. So the exhaust pipe is the same as the intake pipe. It comes out the same way it went in. But yeah, I'll just check at different times. Right around Christmas time, I was checking a lot because there was sweets around and I'm a sugar addict. I admit that. But there was that one day, it was Christmas. I made it to Christmas Day and Serena made a pie, because I like pecan pie. So it was made especially for me. Whatever we didn't eat at that dinner was thrown out or given to people to take with them. I can't have it around the house. But I checked that night and I was at 0. Right? My blood sugar that night was, it went to like 130 or so. It was like crazy off the chart for me, at least.
But what's so interesting is, so there you are, an admitted, confirmed sugar addict,
Sure.
like I myself have admitted, and she makes you a pecan pie. To me, the equivalent is for you to say, I got this amazing Caymus Cabernet, you got to try, but the rest of the bottle is going to go home with the guests, but I got you a bottle of this amazing cab, right?
Yeah.
Nobody looks at it that way, Vinny. That's what's very frustrating. And it's as serious though. I mean, this is, sugar is a killer. It's slow suicide, but it's a killer.
It is. I have it's kind of a lie, but it's my general rule of thumb on wine because I love wine. It's sugar, right? It's,
but if you are a 20-year recovered alcoholic, would your partner hand you a bottle of wine to have just for Christmas dinner?
No, that would be suicide, right? But I asked Serena to make me, I have that every year. It's like she didn't make it and put it in my face. If I'm going to have something, it's going to be that pecan pie.
And if she asked you for an amazing bottle of Caymus, you'd buy it and bring it home for Christmas dinner?
Yeah, if she wanted it. But look, my thing with wine is, but I'm not an alcoholic. My thing is, whenever I'm looking at my sister-in-law, I can have wine, my wife's older sister, for 2 reasons. I see her about once a year and she has some really good wine, right?
And you're not an alcoholic.
And I'm not an alcoholic, but if I was, and they brought a 1972 Petrus, I might have trouble with that, right? It's like, wait, you gave me this and I can't have it. It doesn't matter that it's a $2,500 bottle of wine. I'm an alcoholic. It can be $5 of this. You can't have it, right? But I've learned how to control the sugar thing, right? I can have the piece of pie and then stop. An alcoholic, if you had 30 years in the program, you're now back to day one again, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't have it, but
Yeah, but technically you're back to day one on your abstinence from sugar the day after your pecan pie.
yeah, the difference is I think I see where you're going with this. I think the difference is if someone became an alcoholic, because I have alcoholics in my life. I have a brother and a friend. And you know, it ruined their life. It was either get into a 12-step program and get yourself sober, or you're going to die, right? You've already screwed up the rest of your life. Now you're going to die. And we know that when alcoholics, a lot of time when they fall off the wagon, they don't make it out the second time. So I guess that's the difference with me. I figured out a long time ago that I'm a sugar addict. But if I have sugar one day, I don't go into, and look, I work with a lot of people. People do consults with me all the time. They'll have that same piece of pecan pie, and that'll set them off for the next 6 months. They'll gain 40 pounds back before they go, okay, I'm ready to jump in again. I've somehow figured out to just jump back in.
Yeah. So do you think it's just people are at a different end of the spectrum of the addiction?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. Unlike alcohol, where it will kill you. And again, sugar will kill you too. Maybe I'm not as big of an addict as I think I am, because once I do it, I can shut it off right there. It hurts like it. To be honest with you, Lisa, it's almost not worth it, because after I have the pecan pie, for the next week, I'm jonesing for other things. You know, like I'm walking through Whole Foods to buy some fish. I see a chocolate bar and I go, oh, it's just a chocolate bar. You can't do it, right? So it takes me about a week to get that out of my head again.
Right.
Right. Because you start thinking, oh my God, a pint of ice cream. Look at that thing. It's just sitting there. You know, I get how hard it is. I just have this weird discipline to just shut it off again. And I think some people have that weird discipline. Other people, there's a woman I'm working with right now, I took 100 pounds off of her a year ago, and she put 30 or 40 back. And I asked her how, and she was like, I can't help it. So I have her calling me every day or sending me a text every day. We started with, we need to make it 8 hours. Okay, now we need to get to 12 hours. Okay, now we need to get to 24. Well, now she's about 20 pounds down of all that weight she gained, and we're almost a month into her not eating junk again, right? We started on, I think, the 31st of last month. So it's doable, right? But it's not easy.
With an immense amount of support for certain people that are really have faltered enough times, what I call back into the carb ditch. And it's really, really difficult. I feel like there's got to be a lot of tools in the toolbox to keep a lot of people who have a certain severity of sugar addiction. And it's no joke. You know, it's the old thing, one bite's too many and 100's not enough, you know?
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to where when I have that one, piece of pecan pie, I can bring it back. You know, I was with my climbing buddy over in Chamonix, and we would order, hamburger patties. We found this one place where they had these big, juicy, thick hamburger patties, and we would get, a couple at a time. And we go there for lunch. And no matter how many times you ask in France, don't put the French fries on the plate, we just stopped asking, right? And he saw me eating, one or two fries off my plate. And he goes, every day I'll watch you and you'll have one or two fries on your plate, but you won't eat the rest of them. And I said, yeah, it's not a trigger for me. right? Just eating one, eating a piece of potato is just not a trigger, right? Now, if that was some kind of whipped cream or something there, or something sweet on the plate, that could be a trigger. That'll want me jonesing for more, right? But we're out hiking all day long anyway and burning a shit ton of calories, and the potato, the little piece of French fry just didn't matter. It was just there, and I was bored, and you chew on it, right? So that's not a big deal, right? But for other people, they'll eat one French fry and they got to finish the whole plate. As a matter of fact, that's what he told me. He goes, I can't have the one. He goes, I would have to house the whole plate of fries. So it depends on what your triggers might be.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very interesting to me over the years of coaching, understanding and realizing the difference in severity of the addiction. Plus there's some alcoholics that like drink 3 or 4 glasses of wine every single day. And others that once they have one glass, they drink until they black out.
Right.
So, yeah.
I saw an alcoholic friend. We were out somewhere, and one of the people had a Bloody Mary at the table. And he reached into their glass and pulled out the celery stick and started. I said, dude, there's alcohol all over that thing. He goes, a piece of celery is not, he goes, I just wanted to eat this piece of celery. That's not my problem. My problem is if I have one beer, I'm not going to stop until I'm dead. Right. So I guess everyone has their level of what they know they can do.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it's a strange world.
So Vinnie, after going through and making those amazing documentaries, if there was one more documentary left in you, what do you think it would be?
I'd probably go head deep into GLP-1s, or the other one is not even health related. I think the whole thing with the electric car is just the most ridiculous thing we're doing. Right. And I know people always tell me, stay in your lane. It's like, well, it's kind of my lane to point out absurdities.
Expose the truth, really.
If you ask someone, why are you driving an electric car? And they'll say, well, it's saving the planet. And I'll say, well, how? And usually the tree hugger types that do drive those cars are the same people who yell about blood diamonds, right? Well, you might as well start calling it blood lithium, because they're using child labor to mine the lithium and
even the copper, the amount of copper that it's in those things.
It's crazy what it takes, when you want to talk about CO2 carbons, just to build an electric car. And we haven't even started to figure out how to dispose of these batteries when they're done. And they don't last forever, folks. They're going to be done, and you're going to have all of these lithium batteries and all this copper and no place to put it, right? We haven't even thought about that yet, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's happy. Oh, look, there's nothing coming out of the car. Yeah, but for that car to be filled with that energy, there's either a coal plant or a diesel plant or some turbine that's turning that's causing you to fill up that car. Are we discounting that?
Right. And what about also the EMF emitted? I've seen and heard a lot about do not sit in your car while it's charging if you have that. And how about even while you're driving it?
Yeah, you're inside of this thing that's emitting all these different rays and all, just it's crazy. And everyone goes, oh, it's an electric car. It doesn't cost me anything once I buy it. Oh, no, it's costing you dearly. And no one, it's that kind of stranger than fiction thing. I've always said, we're going to look back on electric cars and GLP-1s and go, what were we thinking? Literally, what were we thinking? So those are on my mind. It costs a lot to do these documentaries. It's just a shit ton of money. And every time you do them, you don't know if the money's going to come back, right? So, we'll see. My fourth documentary, Dirty Keto, I released it myself on Amazon. I didn't go through Gravitas Ventures. So Amazon buried it. First off, they didn't put it out until 63 days after they were supposed to put it out. So all of the, I went out, I was on all these big podcasts around the country. None of that helped because those podcasts came out and nobody could go buy the movie. And then when they put it out, they wouldn't put it under health documentaries, number one. And number two, they buried it under special interest. And they made me put a PG-13 rating on it.
And what was the ulterior motive with that?
Don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of crazy things that happen around me now. I guess they consider me one of the kooks, right? I'm kind of in that RFK category, right? Of, oh, he's a nut job guy, which is fine, right?
Because then you know you're on the right track.
Or not, it's a weird place to be, right? We watched, we talk about this all the time. We watched my Instagram grow from 0 to like 99,000 people in no time. And ever since then, they've been keeping me at around 97,000. For every person that comes in, they take a person plus off, right? And they won't allow it to grow. And they won't show it to people outside of my group. They won't show my Instagram, right? So, and around that same time, I was taken off of Wikipedia. And we contacted Wikipedia and said, what's up? And they said, we can't prove that you're a real person. And we can't prove that anything about you is real. We don't know if you've done movies. And it's like, well, you can easily go and look at IMDb. It's like, we can't trust IMDb. Okay, so what do you trust? Right? So weird things happen around me all the time.
Do you think it's from the exposing big pharma, big food kind of thing, or?
It's hard to know, but I think you're in the right category.
Yeah.
You start calling out Walter Willett and Unilever and all these companies, and people are listening to you. They find a way to try to make you go away.
Silence.
Right. So I live in a weird world. I live in a weird space now. My buddy Mike Rowe, I'm name dropping now. Mike Rowe said to me, he goes, why did they put a PG-13 on Dirty Keto? I don't know. So I'm looking at other places to release it, right? So I might be pulling it off of Amazon and releasing it in other places just so that more people can see it, right? They've successfully buried a really good documentary. So it makes you wonder, if I put a lot of money into the electric car, what do you think is going to happen to that? Right?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you so much. This has been really fun. We made our way all the way to electric cars from early OG low carb keto guru. So I really appreciate your time, and I'd love to talk more. And I was on Vinnie's podcast last week. I don't think it's out yet, right? But
I think it's coming out this Friday.
Okay. I'll post that. We had a really great conversation. So yeah, thanks so much. Thanks all for joining in, and hit the like button. It helps the algorithm, helps Vinnie and I out, try to get the truth out and spread our word. So thanks again.